Okay, so I haven't done a video in a while, so I thought I'd do one. Don't expect too much. For those that follow me on Instagram, I've been off for a while, been a bit ill recently, but I'm in the workshop now, so got quite an interesting repair here, or work on this one, I should say, rather than a repair. It's a giant revolt. Customer's brought it in because he's purchased a new chain set. He's got a GRX one going on, and had an FSA chain set and bottom bracket. So we're fitting the GRX and we're fitting a Shimano bottom bracket to it. So I was just going to talk about just the tolerances and what I do on the bottom bracket shells. I'm not going to go into it like mega detail. It's also a bit of a funny subject on YouTube, and with certain armchair mechanics, or not mechanics, they don't touch any tools. Engineers, and also some proper engineers getting in kind of heated discussions about the best ways to do things, measuring things, and if it's necessary and not. But I thought I'd share what I do and why I do it and that kind of thing. So it's not going to be the longest video in the world, but you get a gist of my opinion if you care. But there we go. So bottom bracket's been removed. I've cleaned it all out. This is free of any dirt and debris. Doesn't help us a black frame. It doesn't show up too well on the camera, but basically this is carbon, bare carbon in here. It's all smooth. So it's ready to kind of have the new one installed. But before we do this, and I always check, the customer has asked me to anyway, but I would normally check before fitting a new bottom bracket, especially in press fit kind of carbon frames and things. So we want to check whether this is oversized, undersized, whether it's oval or round, that kind of thing. So first thing I'll do is get up, poor knees. It's missing. So I've got a couple of these tools. Here we go. I'm going to say I can't find it. So this, to the untrained eye, is just a block of metal, which it is. This is what I would call, using this tool is the kind of bare minimum way you should check a kind of bottom brackets tolerance. You can be a bit naive and just presume that the manufacturers check everything and kind of they're always 100%, which is pretty far from the truth. Certain brands are better than others, and some are horrendous. And then some are kind of hit and miss. But so the quality control in the UK, I think, is a bit slack. But anyway, this is what I call a go, no-go tool. So one side, you can see this faint line ever so slightly around the middle. So one side is 40.95 millimeters and the other side is 41 millimeters. These are machined with a lot of accuracy, so they are exactly what they say, hence the 0.95, made by BSC Tools, which if you're in the cycle world, have a look on their website. I'm not paid to obviously say that or anything, but they are very good, and they do some really good tools which no one else seems to be making at the minute. So obviously they are fairly expensive, but you get what you pay for with these kind of really precisely made, accurate tools. Anyway, 41 mil. This shouldn't go in. If it does, it means that the bottom bracket is oversized. Now, the edge of this has been kind of finished a bit nicely and rounded, so it will go in a tiny bit. Obviously, I would do this with two hands just for your viewing pleasure. So it goes in initially just because of the rounded edge, but it then won't go in. I think it would if I really forced it, but that's not the idea. Obviously, I'll check both sides as well. But so if we go with the 40.95 side, this should go in, and it should go in with just minimal effort. I shouldn't have to really force it in or tap it. Should just go in fairly easily. Obviously, being one-handed, I've got to make sure I get it fairly square for it to slide in properly. So there we go. And then there we go. It's got, you can see it's got a bit of resistance to it. There's a ever so slight kind of resistance. I think in an ideal world, I think I'd like it to be just a fraction tighter than this, but Also, another thing you've got to remember if you really want to get kind of precise with these things, temperature plays quite a big part when you're talking about chunks of metal. If it's a roasting day, this is going to be bigger than on a freezing cold day. That affects the tolerances, things like that, and I'll get onto that in a bit. So I'd deem this as kind of acceptable, but in an ideal world, I'd like it to be just slightly snugger. Obviously, I'd check the other side as well. So this just checks that when I fit the new bottom bracket, it's not going into a hole which is too tight, so it's not going to kind of pinch anything up. It's not going to rattle around, squeak and move and all the rest of it. It's fine. Now, if you want to get really precise or more precise, and obviously it depends how much a customer wants to go into it and how much they want to pay for this service, this is what I would check on a kind of, if a customer's paying me to fit a bottom bracket, I would check this as a kind of bare minimum. If they wanted me to go into more detail, obviously, then I would, and the price would reflect that. But so this is good to go. Obviously, this side anyway. So if I was going to get more precise and check what they call the ovality, which is whether the thing is oval, whether it's shaped like an egg or whether it's round, the only way you can check that is there's a few places that use a 3-point bore mic, which is, you can see here, there's one there, one there, one there. They go in and out as you twist it, and then that gives you the measurement of the hole. That doesn't really check the ovality because it's, on 3 points. It's not kind of going directly across in any way. So realistically, that just tells you, it's just a different way of telling you if it's undersized or oversized as a kind of average. These are absolutely pointless, really, if you're going to buy a cheap one, because you're talking about really accurate measurements. You want a decent brand. This is SPI, which are kind of, starting to get fairly good. Also, these tools cost a lot of money, but they're absolutely pointless if they're not calibrated. And again, this is where you need to calibrate things regularly. So this is a calibration ring. These in themselves are quite expensive, and it is as it looks. It is just a steel ring. These need to be used, as far as I know, it's almost always the same, but it's 20 degrees, especially for this one. If it's dropped, things like that, again, it's kind of throw away. So you've got to be quite gentle with them, and, temperature plays a part. So at 20 degrees, this is 43 millimeters, but it's been measured accurately, and it isn't. It's actually 43.001. So there's a bit of kind of leeway there with that. How accurate was the temperature when it was measured is another thing. So let's just say it's 43. This is a second-hand one from a kind of trusted seller, so it's not one that's been kicked around a workshop. Has been checked. Anyway, so those two go together. That's checked and calibrated fairly regularly, and I can do that myself. So you'd use that just to check the undersized, oversized kind of aspect. It won't really check the ovality, which a lot of places kind of buy these and claim that they're checking the ovality, which they're not. You could move it around and things like that. It doesn't really do it. If you want to check the ovality, there it is. I lost it. So you get these. I don't know if you know the proper name for these. No, I don't know. It's not written down on there anyway. They're basically sprung loaded. Some of them are sprung loaded both sides. Some of them just sprung loaded one side, and then they lock at the end. You would take what I would call a clocked measurement. So you go from that way, maybe there, and then there, and then there. So you're clocking kind of 12 o'clock, like kind of 1:30, 3 o'clock, you get the idea. Then you write it down, ideally like on a sheet, and then you know at what point what the measurement is, and they should, in an ideal world, all be the same. If it's obviously bigger there than it is there, then you know it's kind of oval, and you know exactly what point is wider as well. Then you can obviously do something about it. If it's oversized, there's not a huge amount you can do about it, apart from start adding kind of retaining compounds to the surfaces when you press it together. If it's undersized, obviously you can remove the material. You can put a reamer through it, obviously which will cut the whole lot. If you know at what point it's nipped in, you could then gently sandpaper kind of one area and remeasure it and that kind of thing. But this basically spring loads in, then you kind of lock it and, kind of rotate it out. That will give you the kind of ovality, and that is the only way really to to check properly with, kind of tools which are reasonably affordable. I'm not going to go into this, but basically there is also the fact that on a carbon frame mostly, is the round hole in line with the one on the other side, or are they slightly offset to each other? The only way you do that is or one of the ways of doing that is if you had a kind of like the go not go tool, but a long one, and kind of if it slid through. I think might be Hambini's bottom brackets or another brand. Anyway, they're like a long one-piece bottom bracket. If they slide through, they foul on the other side before they kind of get all the way through, but it gives you an idea. But anyway, I think it's important to remember at the end of the day, it is a push bike. How accurate does it need to be? We're talking about kind of, pretty accurate kind of measurements, or getting into, that kind of thing. But these bikes cost a lot of money. People's pride and joy. So you want to do the best you can, especially if they're paying you to do a job. You want to obviously do it as best you can to your ability. And I think kind of the go not goes are the kind of basic bare minimum. And then, you can get more detailed if you need to, or if you want to, or if the customer wants you to. The options there. Obviously, not every shop's going to have these kind of things. A lot of places don't even realise they exist, I don't think. But I guess once you've had this done once, and it's been done once and recorded, and you're happy with it with your bike, obviously it doesn't need to be done every time you put a new bottom bracket in it. So it's kind of one hit wonder. I do a lot of which I call frame preps. So when customers buy a new frame, I get it a lot with the steel frames, where they'll bring in a brand new steel frame, and before it's even touched, I will check all the threads, cut them if they're a bit tighter, if they're full of paint, check bottom brackets, check headsets. If they are out, I then use cutters and reamers and things. Got some here, and I then, try and get them as close to, accurately perfect as I can with the tools which I've got to measure them. So it's just one of the things I do. But as you saw, this side, I'm happy with it. Ideally, it would be nice if it's just a touch tighter, I think. But we're talking, very, very small measurements here. So what I'll do is now, this side, I will check properly using two hands, and I'll do the other side, and then I will fit the bottom bracket. We've got just a fairly, I think these are good for the money. They're reliable. They fit nicely. They're easy to get out as well. Don't cost the earth. Especially on a gravel bike, it's getting covered in, water and mud and God knows what else. I think most things on a bike aren't sealed up as well as ideally they should be, because you need to be able to pedal it around still and turn the bars and things fairly easily. So it's not like a car. So you want little resistance, but as much weatherproofing. So it's a fine balance, and I think they're good enough. So I'm going to get that done. Hopefully this video you found vaguely interesting. I'll go through, I've got kind of more videos on other various tools like this and things and stuff like that, and I'm going to try my best to do a few more, a bit more regularly. So if you want to subscribe, and you might find I'll do a few more soon. Anyway, see you later.